Alright, I saw this Sir Sick video pop into my feed. I already did this intro once before. And I have a new chair. It's broken. Bear with me. Let's go. And fucking Razer is taking up all my resources, even though I never said I wanted it to be open. Can you tell I've had a lot of problems in the past 10 minutes? Fuck's sake, just close. Oh my god, it's opening again. I don't... Ugh. It's just like fucking Steam. You have to delete the... very specific part of it in Task Manager just to get it to go away. Razer, Synapse Service Process, End Task. Razer, Synapse Service, 32-bit, End Task. Can you hear my computer throwing an absolute fit? Get out of my room! Dumbass cats. Oh my god. Is it done? God damn, I'm using 74% memory from just fucking running my computer.
Atheists fear Lucifer's 25 questions so much that all of these guys will avoid them.
Now, I'm not trying to be a giant butthole or anything, it just kind of happens, but hoping that these much larger YouTube channels than me aren't going to answer my questions, when, no offense, but as of writing, you have like a couple of thousand subs, so basically, no one's heard of you. No, there's nothing wrong with that. We all start...
And this is a very good point. And the reason why I came here to do this video, because from this point up until a minute 40, he just goes on and on about how everyone's too, which in the title, everyone's too scared to answer his questions, but, like, dude, you have a couple thousand subs. That means only a couple thousand people have even watched your channel and liked it enough to subscribe to it. Chances are not even 100,000 people total have even, like, watched completely through one of your videos. So, to say that all of these massive YouTubers haven't read or haven't watched that singular video of yours, and you're saying that they're scared for some reason, that's just stupid.
Started somewhere, including those guys, but it's a bit goddamn rich and more than a little bit narcissistic to act like they are somehow obligated to do anything for you, but also that you seem to think that they would be scared to do so somehow. That's just absolutely ridiculous, and says to me that this is exactly the kind of garbage that's going to be super easy to answer, because it always is.
So I challenge all atheists to answer Lucifer's 25 questions like Martin Luther challenging the papacy.
Again,
And here you see the Christian hubris. Why is a complete nobody comparing himself to one of the greatest figures in history? Feels more than a little bit conceited, doesn't it?
Comparing yourself to things people have actually heard of. Little egotistical. Also, atheists aren't remotely comparable to the fucking papacy. They are, by and large, individuals with various ideas, ideals, and worldviews that just so happen to include not believe God does the real as part of them.
And it would be preferable if the answers were through a video so that I could make a response video scoring all of them.
So, not a response video actually responding to them, but simply scoring them. Well, let me score yours before we start. I give you a stop being so fucking ridiculous out of Jesus Christ, this is embarrassing. It has a little something for everyone.
I always love a good search stick video.
Too much water.
First things first, this is my definition of theist and atheist.
Look, I know it's a good thing to define our terms, but every single time we do one of these, the definitions used are almost always completely incoherent. It would be nice if when they chose their definitions, they used ones that people, actually use, and that make sense, and actually describe a decent chunk of atheists instead of, none of them.
Theists believe that existence was created by a living thing, metaphysically.
Nope, that's creationism, not theism. Theism is just believing there's a God. That's all it is.
Atheists believe that existence was created by a non-living thing.
Once again, that's not atheism. Sorry, I'm eating pizza. That's not atheism. That is... I don't even know how to describe that. It's just not being stupid.
Thing physically.
Well, those are wrong and shockingly incoherent. Definitions of gods don't have to be living the same way that we understand it. Living has a definition, by the way, and a god does not have to fit into that. And there could be a universe created by a normal living being. Within atheism, still working, as create a universe is far from the only thing that would define a god. And if humans were to figure out how to create universes, that would not suddenly make them gods. Also, physically and metaphysically are meaningless in this context because the universe is physical, so it has to be made physically at some point. Christ, we aren't even into the questions yet, and he's already screwing so hard.
And skeptics don't believe in anything and question theists and atheists.
Yeah, so this guy, I'm not 100% sure what his deal is, but I can only assume he sees himself as a mighty skeptic TM. That is to say, someone who considers themselves a skeptic, but has no fucking idea how skepticism actually works. I mean...
This is a good point. The guy in the video is very clearly very biased, towards theism. He's more inclined to believe theism than the scientific evidence that debunks it, basically.
For fuck's sake, a skeptic does not believe in nothing. Are you joking? You can absolutely believe in things and be skeptical. In fact, you can be skeptical of the things that you believe. Like how you should be really goddamn skeptical of your fucking definitions. Then they might not be so goddamn stupid.
Sorry. Using my awful
So I'm really speaking about the scientific atheist community,
Fucking air quotes. Jesus, that's funny.
which blindly believes in the physical world religious dogma.
Blindly believe in the physical world religious dogma. What the fuck are you talking about? What religious dogma? The fact that the physical world...
It's just buzzwords strung together. That's all it is. It makes a somewhat coherent point, but it really is just him taking buzzwords and stringing them together. That's all it is.
world, exists, and yeah, that even if this is a simulation or it's made of some fundamental whatever, the physical world, as we describe it, is, as we describe it. And if you think that people religiously think that it's the only way possible, I would suggest you actually talk to an atheist, because I think you'll find that most of them will tell you, while they think it is X way, they would be perfectly happy to be proven wrong. So fucking religious.
And the educational system indoctrinated them into believing it because it's
See what I mean? See what I mean about him very clearly being biased?
basically the only other option to God.
No, it isn't. And if you think the educational...
The only people saying that science as we know it is the only other option other than God are literally only theists who try to use the either-or fallacy. That's the only demographic of people who say that.
System tricked people into believing facts. You're even more of a dumbass than I gave you no credit for.
Now, after these questions, you'll see that atheists don't really have any answers at all.
I'm sure we will. It would just be nice if you fucking got...
I guarantee you I will have an answer to at least one of these questions. And I guarantee you the answer to at least one of these questions is you asked the wrong question, or you asked a question in a way that assumes something that's wrong.
to them, instead of dancing around the point and trying to define yourself into being correct before you even start. Because that always works out so well.
So I'll play the skeptic for this, where the truth is a blank sheet of paper with nothing on it.
Ah, shit, dude, you flubbed your line. Don't worry. I'll fix it in post.
So I'll play the skeptic for this, with
my brain
is a blank sheet of paper with nothing on it.
I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea who was gonna say that. That was funny.
You're welcome.
And I'd like to hear the atheists' answers with evidence to convince me into believing their worldview.
With evidence, I would be shocked if you knew what evidence was, even if it walked up to you and bit you in the stupid.
Question 1. How is there something rather than nothing?
Holy shit, are
Because something has always been here. Next question.
you fucking kidding me? That's your opener. A question that has been answered countless times. Fuck me. And before I answer, there is, of course, more than likely a completely reasonable response to any and all of the questions that follow. Being, I don't know, mate. But of course, saying that 25 times wouldn't be super interesting. Although it would be really funny. But yeah, a plausible explanation for something rather than nothing is because there has to be. As in, the universe exists because some fundamental part of existence is just a necessary thing. Now, the other point I have to put with this one is this is not a question that as of yet can be answered with evidence, and asking this question and not knowing that is fucking embarrassing, mate.
Question 2. How did matter come from no matter? Or can you elucidate how something physical just exists?
So, there are two ways I can answer this question. First of which is going into quantum physics, which I do not know nearly enough about to actually do this. Second is just answer this question with the with the answer to the first question, which is matter exists because it's always been in existence.
Tests.
Elucidate? Well, that's a big word for such a dumb ass. You could have just said explain, but of course someone told this guy about the thesaurus, and he just had to prove that he can actually read it. I hope this isn't the start of a trend, and how
There aren't many times that I hear a word that I haven't heard often. What was it? Elucidate? I don't know how to spell this. Elucidate. Did I just get that right off the bat? Meaning. Elucidate. Make something clear or explain. It's a very fancy word for something so simple. Alright.
just had to prove that he can actually read it. I hope this isn't the start of a trend. And how did matter come from no matter? Who says it did that? It might have, it might not have. But the mechanism for such an event is not something we have yet got an answer for. In fact, if we did, we would know where the fucking universe came from. And also an explanation of how something just exists would be, it just exists. Fancy words don't stop that from being a dumb question.
Question 3. How did the physical thing change if there was nothing else to react to?
I swear.
Okay, this is just really confusing. How did the physical thing change if there was nothing else to react to? This feels like a chemistry question, but I'm honestly not quite sure, because I need context for this.
How did the physical thing
Let's see if he gives any context for this.
change if there was nothing else to react to?
I swear this is just the same question 3 different ways, but whatever. There was 2 of them, because fuck you.
Question 4. Can you show me a
He just doesn't give any clarification on what the fuck he means. Okay. So I guess what he meant was if the universe... I'm making a huge guess here, but I want to at least give some sort of information here. I'm guessing what he means by this is at the beginning of the universe, if only some elements existed, how do the rest exist, I guess? But that's not reacting, that's a whole magnitude larger than just basic elements. The basic elements formed because quarks and shit formed protons and neutrons, and then electrons got added in there. Excuse me, and then one proton and one neutron and an electron can easily... What are you doing? Alright. Because protons and neutrons and obviously electrons all just gravitate towards each other because they have mass and gravity is a thing. And so they automatically form with each other, and to some extent, either two or more elements can be formed that way. And it just so happens that the elements that can be formed that way just so happen to be the elements necessary to make a star. And then star fusion makes a lot more, and then I don't know how the rest are made, because I remember hearing that many of the higher density elements require some weird way to create them other than star fusion, but yeah.
A single physical thing being created, and can you explain how it is created?
Let me rewind this question.
There was 2 of them, because fuck you.
Question 4. Can you show me a single physical thing being created, and can you explain how it is created?
Like all things are created from assembling materials into the thing. It's like the basics of how things are created. You just assemble the materials in the right way. That's all it is. It's literally all it is. And the base components for everything have existed since the beginning of time.
I know what his point is supposed to be, but the question is so idiotically open-ended that I could say, sure, and just show a clip of basically anything being manufactured. Because if he's not going to ask the questions in the way that gets him the kind of answers that he's looking for, it's not my job to provide them. I'm a YouTuber. I don't even know what a job is.
Burnout. We all experience it at some point. It's so important to me that I've actually been working on it in therapy.
Question 5. Is there a bottom to the physical world?
Why does he not give, like, any clarification as to what any of these points mean. Is there a bottom to the physical world, or are things made of things infinitely? Okay, this is really, like, you have to misunderstand many things about physics to even pose this question. First off, up and down don't exist without a specific point of gravity to reference from. The reason why we have up and down on Earth is because the point of gravity that dictates up and down is the center of the Earth. Up and down do not exist in space. That's not how that works. The second part of this question, I don't even know what he's trying to ask here. I guess he's asking about the expansion of the universe. I guess. I don't know. I will say that vacuums, dictating by, judging by quantum physics, a vacuum, which essentially is a space of nothing, can literally be created from nothing. So a space of nothing can be created from nothing. And from what I understand, that's happening, like, all over the universe. And that's why the space in between objects is just expanding, because vacuum is being created from nothing, space of nothing, from nothing, creating more space in between objects, making the universe expand. Pretty much.
Or are all things made of things infinitely?
No, it's a globe, dumbass. That's not how that works. And as much as that is a joke answer, it actually gives one that could be an actual answer. What if
is
it...
he talking about the Earth, not the universe? Oh, I see. It said physical world. Okay. Assuming he is talking about the Earth, the bottom of the physical world, aka the Earth, would technically be the center of the Earth, because that is the source of gravity on this planet, the main source of gravity on this planet. Or are things made of things infinitely? I don't know what that means.
Things infinitely.
No, it's a globe, dumbass. That's not how that works. And as much as that is a joke answer, it actually gives one that could be an actual answer. What if it's circular? You know, it's both functionally endless and also finite, because it goes on forever, but it also loops back on itself. Certainly an idea.
Question 6. Do the physical things collectively make up one thing, or is everything separate, or even something else?
Depends on what level you're looking at. Because technically, quarks are the base materials. They may be made up of something, I don't know what they would be made up of. But quarks, there, and then protons and neutrons are made up of quarks. And you can go up infinitely up to, I guess, the universe. There may be a multiverse, but I don't fucking know if that's the case.
Oh, so we're getting into semantics now. That's not even a if God do or don't kind of question. Because even God could come under the banner of this is the word that describes all the things. Basically, the answer is yes and no. Depends on how you define it. I'm so surprised you didn't know that.
Question 7. Can 2D even exist in the physical world, given that it has no thickness at all?
Technically, yes. 2 dimensions necessarily exist in 3 dimensions. But you know, it's really weird to ask that question. I don't know how this has anything to do with like theism and atheism. It's just a really weird question.
This is actually kind of an interesting question. I can only assume it was entirely by accident, but whatever. Now, I assume what he's thinking is that, well, a piece of paper is actually three-dimensional, so even a picture etched onto its surface would have some kind of height relative to the paper. But I would argue there's other ways to generate flat things. You could simulate it. You can, in fact, make a 2D shape in a computer that has no functional z-axis, making it, technically, perfectly two-dimensional.
Okay, I do like the answer Sir Sick gave here, but I want to kind of elaborate on my answer. Technically, because we live in a three-dimensional space, technically two dimensions exists in the three dimensions. The only thing is that there are no beings that exist in only two dimensions from what we know. Because for something to exist in only two dimensions, it would have to play by different rules than this universe has. But you can look at, like, what a two-dimensional slice of something would look like. Like, you can, like, visualize or draw out what that would look like. Two dimensions necessarily exist in three dimensions. And, you know, I say it like it sounds simple. I say it like it's simple, but it is kind of advanced to think about. So I don't have any qualms with him asking that question, because it is a good question. It is a very good question. But from how I see it, two dimensions necessarily exist in three dimensions, because you can take any three-dimensional object and you can visualize what any two-dimensional slice of that object would look like,
while still existing within physical reality.
Question 8. How does time and the separation of events exist in the physical world?
Dude, that's really not gonna help.
Time and the
How does time and the separation of events exist in the physical world? The fuck does that even mean? Oh my god, my cat is mowing again. I guess he's asking how time exists? You can think of it as the fourth dimension. This has been said over and over and over again. Time is essentially the fourth dimension. But because, fuck, this question is really, why does he word all of his questions like this? What the hell, man? It's just the fourth dimension. It's at time is separated from the third dimension, or the three dimensions that we exist in, pretty much. That's all I can really say, because I don't understand what he wants from this question, because it's these questions are phrased in such a way that, like, he isn't clear on what exactly he's asking because of how abstract these subjects are. He needs to be, like, actually asking more specific questions than this.
separation of events exist in the physical world?
Dude, that's really not going to help. If you're late for work going on about how time is a human construct, man, well, it's not going to make your boss any less pissed at you. In fact, I can only assume it would make him way more angry, because you think you're being so very clever. But here's the thing. Just because time is arguably a thing that humans invented to track things, doesn't make it any less real than, say, map coordinates, even though they don't exist in nature. Basically, my answer is to point at a fucking clock and look.
I know Sir Sick is mostly joking with this one, but I think he brings out a good point. I think he brings out a very good point. The way science works is drawing boxes as references around things that already exist. That's essentially how science works, is we draw boxes around things and we label them. That's what most scientific terms are. Like, within certain subjects. And, just because time itself is one of those boxes that we use does not mean it's not around a very real force in the universe.
Look at you like you're stupid.
Question 9. Does the past and the future exist simultaneously, or are we always living in the peak of time?
The peak? This mother...
Okay, the second part of that question doesn't make any sense at all. But the question of does all time exist at once is, it's a question we don't know the answer to. It's a question we don't know the answer to because we haven't fiddled enough with the box that we call time. We haven't fiddled with it enough, and we haven't fit it to the natural processes enough yet to have that answer, basically.
The f***er doesn't even know how to words, does he? Why would it be a peak or a valley? And I'm amazed he didn't use the words zenith or nadir. Probably because he wasn't smart enough to know that there might be other words for the highest and lowest point of something. But yeah, that's exactly why the question doesn't make sense, words-wise anyway. And the past and the future and the present all exist in so much as they're all concepts that we use to explain things. Without them, you wouldn't know what you just did. And you would have no way to plan for the, what's it called? The thing that isn't yet. It'll come to me.
Question 10. What proof for God should be accepted, given hallucinations exist?
It's
Literally any that you can use science to prove. It's just about replication. You just need to be able to replicate the events. That's all you need to do. You need to be able to observe them objectively and be able to replicate them. And then after that, it needs to be enough of those observable, replicatable effects that you can actually, enough of them that would prove that God exists, you know? You can't just have one replicatable, observable thing that may or may not be caused by something completely different. You have to have a lot of things.
things that can be verified. The thing about hallucinations is that they don't tend to happen in the same ways to completely different people, especially when separated by time and or space. That is to say, if there was a God proof and it could be tested, if everyone tested it and came to the same conclusion, like with all science, we would have to assume that the answer presented was as correct as possible. What a shock that my dude doesn't even know how to science. You should know this shit at least if you're wanting to take down the educational system. It's almost as if he was never fucking in it.
I've always struggled with losing weight and keeping it off, but I feel comfortable with hers. In a month, I've lost over
ads
7.
in your video.
Question 11.
Gotten like 4 ads up to this point. Holy shit.
Is knowledge like mathematics discovered or invented by people?
Both elements of it.
Both. Once again, it's the box that we have and the thing that the box is around. That's all it is.
Are discovered, ways of doing it are invented. It's questions like these that assure me the questions atheists can't answer are invariably questions I can't answer, and I assume everyone else is as thick as I am, and that makes me smart, somehow.
Question 12. Does existence entirely make sense, or is it partially or entirely nonsense?
That question is way too broad to be able to give.
Yeah, it's way too broad. It's a philosophical question. It's just... I'm just gonna skip this one because it's so far off from being relevant to the actual conversation. I don't feel like going into it.
Give any kind of cogent answer to what's about existence. I mean, existence appears to be coherent. Things have causes and effects and they seem to be consistent. Or do you mean the concept of existence where, I don't know. Or do you mean your existence, because your existence definitely is nonsense.
Question 13. How are the laws of logic and physics just a coincidence that remain constant?
Who said?
It's not a coincidence. You just don't have any other model that uses different... You don't have any other model that uses different values. You have nothing to compare it to. The reason why things work as they do with the way that the laws of physics are as they are now is because everything that exists was built upon those laws of physics. So they necessarily work because of the way laws of physics are. Think about it this way. The laws of physics came first. If the laws of physics were any different, everything that exists now would have come about in a completely different way, depending on those different values that are different laws of physics.
That they're a coincidence. He's doing that a lot, assuming a stance that I have never heard anyone claim to have, even though it's not impossible for anyone to have that position. But to act like it's the default atheist position is super weird. Also, how do you know that they are constant? At the start of the universe, it actually appears they were anything but that.
Question 14. Can humans explain absolutely everything without God?
Right now, no.
No. That doesn't mean that God is necessary.
Of course not. That's why we are doing science. Will we be able to? Probably not, seeing as part of everything is the stuff that happened before humans even existed, so there aren't records of literally every single event. Will we be able to explain most, if not all things to some extent, without invoking supernatural man? Yeah, we can do that right now. That doesn't mean that all the explanations are correct, but they sure as shit don't need to be. God did it.
Question 15. What is the peak of technology and the final invention, if not existence in its entirety?
Okay, I'm gonna end the video after I answer this one because most of these, like, questions are completely off the topic of, like, God and atheism. Like, it's... Like, none of this has any bearing on any conversation to do with that. So it's really weird that he's framing it as questions that need to be answered by atheists. It's really stupid. The answer to this question is, we don't know. We don't know what the limits of technology are because we haven't gotten there yet. Okay, I am going to end this and then go tend to my shrieking cat because he's a fucking idiot. Anyways, bye. Okay, I guess I'm just gonna click it then.